So I cannot get enough of Pedro Pascal right now. Mandalorian, Last of Us, this man is just killing it left and right. He has been crowned the internet's dad with an official crowning ceremony TBD, and I am so here for it.
Eddie Pascal. Papi Pascal.
Honestly, it's hard for me to think that there was a world before Pedro Pascal was famous. What were those days like pre-2014? What did we do? Just watch Downton Abbey? Sherlock? And then cry afterwards because there was just some hole in our collective souls? Okay, like, don't get me wrong. Pascal was doing some great work before his big breaks. And we'll cover some of the best in a bit, but things really didn't take off until he landed the role of Oberyn Martell in the biggest show out there, Game of Thrones. I think that the trick to Game of Thrones was only doing one scene where your life ends tragically. Just compare how much we love Sean Bean, Jason Momoa, and Pedro Pascal versus pretty much everyone else who stuck it out till the end and then did awful movies like Eternals or Terminator Genesis. He showed real superstar skill in only like a few scenes and one epic fight scene against the Mountain that still has me traumatized to this day. Honestly, he was the internet's underdog, but he wasn't quite the internet's dad yet. Being the underdog was like enough to land him a lead role on Narcos and a couple of movie roles that like paid the bills, but things were not on that Oberyn level, you know? Luckily, his bestie had the greatest advice for him that he'd ever get. Note to self, when Oscar Isaac tells you to do something, always do it. So let me take you all the way back to 2005, when the most glamorous thing in all of human history happened. Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac met. They were both in an off-Broadway play called The Beauty of the Father, which sounds pretty bad, to be honest. From what I've heard, Oscar Isaac played a ghost that none of the other characters could see, so Oscar would try to get the entire cast to like crack up and forget their lines, and no one else on stage could even acknowledge his presence. And after they did that presumably horrible play that barely paid them, they stayed besties as the two separately got famous. Though Oscar Isaac got famous much faster. To that point, Pascal went to his old pal, who was well versed in the franchise game by that point, and asked him if he should join a little TV show set in the Star Wars universe called The Mandalorian. And let's just say he was not sold on this weird show where he'd have to hide his face most of the time and where he'd be upstaged by a puppet. We don't exactly know what Oscar said, but I imagine that he punched him in the gut and said, "Do it!" They have that kind of little brother, big brother rivalry kind of friendship, and apparently there's a long-running argument over who would win in a fight between Mando and Moon Knight. And who do you think it'd be? The answer to that question is, we would win if Disney ever let that glorious thing happen. We would win. So The Mandalorian was exactly the show the world needed to get us through the pandemic, right? I think we've all just like collectively agreed that Tiger King just didn't happen. Really sorry, Carol Baskin. Glad your ex-husband is alive. But Mandalorian had all of the Star Wars action everyone loved. And honestly, it's the only Star Wars project everyone's agreed on since we all agreed to never speak of the holiday special. The stoic Din Djarin with the adorable Baby Yoda, and I'm never calling him Grogu, was just such an iconic father and adopted child duo. It was the wholesome action that we all needed, right? And truth be told, The Mandalorian wasn't quite enough to make him the internet's dad. Not yet. Not because he didn't earn it, but because the competition was fierce. We had Timothy Olyphant, the handsome space cowboy, Anson Mount, the handsome space captain, and we still had Chris Evans as Captain of all of America. And not to mention that Robert Downey Jr. literally gave his life for his own daughter's future. Sorry, Iron Man. That's like the most dad thing ever. So Pascal needed one more kid to save in order to take him over the top. That's when he did the impossible and beat out freaking Mahershala Ali, aka can make me cry with his acting in half a second flat, for the role as Joel in The Last of Us. His chemistry with Bella Ramsey, the fact that he can't run up a flight of stairs without passing out, and that traumatizing first episode seriously sealed the deal for Pascal. All that was left was for TikTok to formally declare its undying love for him. And boy, did it find a lot to love. To me, the greatest thing that TikTok has ever done is dive through Pedro Pascal's early career to find the sexiest things he's done. Like it's Indiana Jones looking for a priceless relic. I'm talking about the sexy compilation from Kingsman, The Golden Circle, his vampire cameo on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and this beautiful performance he gave as the gothic criminal cult leader from NYPD Blue. Just imagine what every scared middle-aged man thought goth people were like in the early 2000s. And that's what this character was. Now, if I was in charge of the Met, this would be the only exhibit. It's glorious. Now that James Gunn needs a new Batman who finds out that he's also a dad to a little psychopath, I think I got somebody for the job. Pedro Pascal for Batman? Make it happen, internets.